To index design is a human capacity. It's the human capacity to make and shape our environments in ways that satisfy our needs and give meaning to our lives. This means that design is something we all share. Design is something we all know, like you know, everybody understands music. And then some of us train music and become musicians. It's the same with design. We all know how to design, we all know how to change our environments for the better, but it's something we all know, and that's what makes design so very important. I think you can say that Denmark is a design society. We're brought up with design all around us. If you see any Danish home, you'll see very qualified design. The most important thing is our large-scale societal designs. That's very important. So in Denmark, design is not only about our very beautiful chairs and our very beautiful vases and commodities for home, stuff like that. Design in Denmark is part of the DNA of our nation, of our society, and that's very important. And that might be different from other countries.
You could say Kibisi is a merge of the three companies and three partners, and merging kind of the performances of each partner. I'm in charge of the day-to-day business, making trains run at the right pace and keeping the level of design and quality high. We like ideas, so we say that we are an idea-driven company. We are often inspired by the urban culture that surrounds us, that being from the first product we introduced for III, the Swirl headphone. And we wanted to do a product that was more about communication than only being audio. Overall, I love designing all products. And I think working on different products also gives a lot of feedback, working on one product one day and another product the other day. But in terms of headphone designs, I think it's a great scale. We know a lot about the outside appearance and functionality of the product, but we're also counting on very gifted people creating products that also has a very high quality of sound.
Yesterday, well, it seemed so cool when I walked you home, kissed goodnight. I said it's love, you said alright. It's funny how I could never cry until tonight, and you passed by, hand in hand with another guy. You're dressed to kill, and guess who's dying? That's the way the heartache.
I think that what we try to do, and that is not only with the headphones, we try to make products that are long-lasting, that are unique in their expression and have a good quality, and an expression that would hopefully last for many years, so that our kids also think that the things we design now are cool in 10 years.
In my mind, design is a human-centered creative process that is then used for shaping different physical objects and environments, for different services and other things, or even some systemic decision-making level issues. So a creative, human-centered process. The Finnish design has very interesting roots. Our design is not growing from the very rich noble houses or royal palaces. Our design actually comes from the need for very high level but still affordable solutions for everyday life and the development of the Finnish society. So our design tradition is very functional, very down to earth, very much do it with everyday life. And I think in today's world that's a very good tradition. And then finally some people have even said, because we Finns are usually not great communicators, we are not always talking very much. So some people have said that design is a Finnish way of communication. World Design Capital is a concept where one city in the world is selected every second year. And the World Design Capital is an example for how to use design for cultural, social and economic development. So a very holistic understanding of how design can be used to make the cities better. I think Helsinki was selected as the World Design Capital because of three reasons. One is our background. We have a very strong design tradition, and design is part of the culture of the city. And of course Helsinki is already well known for as an innovation center, so there is a background and tradition. Secondly, right now Helsinki is changing a lot. We are building new parts of the city, lots of changes in the metropolitan structure. So in Europe, Helsinki is a very fast changing city. And then third part is our vision to the future. We have actually very strongly understood that design is a key element of creating well-being and competitiveness. And this is shared by many organizations in our society. In general, the big trend in innovation in Finland especially is that we are moving towards the user-centered innovation. Not doing innovations just because there are innovations, but understanding that how we should innovate things that are close to the people, how they can help people, how they can affect people's lives. So this is a big trend now in Finland. It's kind of a people-centered or user-centered innovation. This is a big thing.
I believe that good design is what is truly created around and inside, that really understand the end user in his context of use, in his cultural and social context of use. That is lowering the barrier of usability and utilization, that is accessible, much more intuitive, easy to relate with, and that is advanced, that is proposing something further than what actually has been done so far. It has to be recognized as a progression. Well, the history of Philips design starts many years ago. Actually, it is nowadays 90 years of history. It was started with an architect, Louis Kalf, who actually entered the company, and he started to create the idea of an identity of a brand. Since then, the organization of design started to evolve, covering very much the area of product design, further adding the area of some communication design, and currently is very much exploring what can represent desirable future proposition for people for a sustainable quality of life. 20 years ago, I declared high design to differentiate high design from the traditional thinking of what design is. High design is, for me, beyond simply a design strategy. Is fundamentally is a life philosophy. Is understanding that people and the natural environment and the artificial environment can have a future if they are in balance. So high design is having this fundamental idea of a sustainable future. And it is not only thinking to the artificial, it is not thinking only to the natural, it is not only thinking to people, but it's really thinking about the world. Well, in my office, I like to keep some memories, like the Philips Alessi products that I realized in '94. I have some experiments. I have fruits that are left there to see how is aging and what are the quality of the aesthetic of this aging, to understand if this can be a new strategy also for sustainability. In a sense, we appreciate some nobles and natural materials when it gets old. We have beautiful wood, we have beautiful objects like a Stradivari that all appreciate, but we do not appreciate plastic getting older. And I like to think the future of digitalization not as a future that will present us sterile home with all CD-ROMs and gray boxes, but I really like to think about a future where objects of anthropological and cultural relevance will actually enhance their functionalities and their intelligence. I like to think about vases, not only for flowers, but vases for all my memories of my holidays, for all my bank administration. I like to think about the tables that are my interactive tables, and so I like to think about my space not as a space of gray CD-ROMs, but as a space full of flowers and butterflies.
I think that design has been sidetracked sometimes and got into issues of where it's just about form, perhaps, or the shape of things. But I think designers have always intuitively tried to create things that are attractive to people. So they've always been human-centered. What we've tried to do more recently is make that a little bit deeper and study a little bit harder, and also apply it to more complicated problems. Because I think when we're designing a new coffee cup or a glass, then we can do it very intuitively. But if we're designing a new banking service, then it's very much more complicated. And so we need to be more explicit and more thoughtful about how we study people.
The goal of IDEO's project for the Spanish bank BBVA was not how to further automate the teller, but rather how to humanize the machine. We started by observing people and their banking experiences. Suddenly, we began to see a whole new opportunity. The 90-degree rotation keeps the cue in the corner of one's eye instead of behind one's back. This lets consumers feel safe. One large slot for cash and receipts gets rid of today's confusing slot clutter, while touchscreen technology gets rid of the button clutter.
I think what I've been interested in doing over the last 10 years really is moving design what I call upstream. So design has often been thought of as something you do right at the end of the process. You know, the engineers have developed the technology and the marketing people have decided kind of what market they want, and the designers get to kind of wrap a package around it. And I think that only uses a very small percentage of the potential of design. But if instead we have designers involved much earlier on in the process, when we're thinking about what we should be innovating, what new things should we be creating, and have design play a role in that, then it has a much bigger influence and a much bigger impact on the companies that are involving those designers. So for me, that's really been the shift in the business model for design, is bringing together a group of people that are talented enough and have enough varied expertise that they can help companies very early on in their innovation process and help advise them, help discover the new markets that they might be growing into, help discover what their consumers and customers really need, and then develop the right products and services and experiences to meet those needs.
For a while now, IDEO designers have been keen to put the best bits of the creative process online and invite everyone to join in. Open IDEO is a global community that will draw on your optimism, inspiration, ideas and opinions to solve problems together for the collective social good.
We set a challenge to ourselves to how can we collaborate with more designers or more people in the world around the projects. We sort of asked this question. You know, IDEO is a tiny little company with 500 people, and we thought, well, what happens if IDEO was 50,000 people in the world? What kinds of problems could we work on? But we didn't want to go and hire 50,000 people, too complicated. So we had this idea of, well, if we could set up a platform that allows people to contribute to and collaborate with us on projects.
Here's somebody talking about what women and children might need out of a toilet, and here are all the various related concepts and inspirations that are related to that. And so, you know, here we have somebody giving ideas about different services, like waste disposal services and things that already exist. So this is all stuff that came in from people all over the world.
In a nutshell, we've created an open online tool that takes you through the creative process. It's highly visual, collaborative, generates feedback, and most importantly, it's fun to use. Open IDEO offers its community inspiration and recognition. The site will be as good as its input, and we're looking forward to seeing what it becomes. Open IDEO, an open platform for innovation where we create better together.
We all believe at IDEO very deeply that for businesses to be successful and to continue to grow, they ultimately have to serve the needs of their consumers. And so if you're trying to innovate, it seems logical, therefore, the place to start, or one of the places to start, should be those people themselves. And in order to try and serve them in the best way you can and discover what they need. Now, it's not easy. It's not a question of going and having a focus group and asking consumers, what products do you want? Because we don't know. As consumers, we don't know. We're not thinking about that. We're not imaginative enough. And so instead, it's about going and really studying them out in their world, at home, in the office, in the car, wherever it might be, and seeing how they behave and using those as inspiration for design. And so it requires a very creative process. It requires designers to be very creative about the way they take these understandings of people and use those as a leaping off point for new ideas. But this notion of starting with understanding humans, being empathic towards the lives of the people that you're trying to design for, I believe very strongly is the right place for designers to start.
Our main objective is to make sure that the people that we're designing for have good experiences. We call it people-centered design. It's about the people who are experiencing it, yes, the customers, but also the people that are on the front lines making it happen for people. So it's about internal organization as much as the external recipients of that product or service. We've used technology in a couple of different ways for one of our clients, BMI. In one case, it was a very simple thing. Our design director, Chris Clegg, was in a meeting with the client, and the client was talking about, well, we're going to do a photo shoot of all our products for a brochure, and we want you to put that brochure online. So Chris was very quick and said, well, wait a minute, if you're doing a photo shoot, let's do a video shoot. Doesn't make sense just to have still images online. You know, online is all about animation, action. Let's make this happen. So BMI was a little reluctant. They said, well, that's going to be expensive, you know. Chris said, well, no, we'll just piggyback off of the photo shoot. We'll bring in a video crew. We'll use the same actors, same sets, same everything. We'll just film it. And that's what happened. And they said yes to it. And it just completely changed the way they viewed themselves and the way they viewed a technology. And that technology is now being used for everything, for their sales kits, for their online demonstrations, for their internal training purposes, and they're real believers in video now. So it's a simple example, but it got them to open their eyes about technology.
So at Prospect, what we like to say is that every business is a service. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, you're ultimately going to be a service. If you develop a product, if you actually provide a service, that's what it's going to be. And there's three things that you have to look at when you're thinking about designing your service. Up here, there's people. And down here, there's technology. Have to have technology. Can't do without it. Over here, of course, is the business. So, the anchor for people is ultimately the experience. So there's conversations that happen all around here. One of the most important conversations is this one, between the business and people. That's where brand happens. That's that conversation. So it's the dialogue that businesses have with people. So they're promising something that these people are going to experience. The conversation between people and technology, well, that's really about interactions. Because when people try and use technology, they have to interact with it. And technology also allows interaction between people. That's a very important aspect of services. And then down here, between business and technology, you've got infrastructure. That's all the stuff that the business has that's technically produced that is ultimately delivered to people. So we're talking about pamphlets, brochures, websites, products, retail services, retail spaces, everything that has a kind of technological foundation. So all of these things go into making a service, and ultimately a service is a coherent system of interactions and infrastructure that allows people to get in touch with a brand.
Prospect creates great customer experiences. That's what we do. We look at the whole experience that a customer might have with a brand or with a company or with an organization, and look at all those touch points and design all of them to provide a holistic experience. Because the world is so complex, because the world of design is so complex now, you need to have a bunch of different disciplines working together on problems. And the most important thing that design education has got to deliver is the ability to work in teams and the ability to identify what kind of skills are necessary to achieve a particular end, and how do you go about mediating the team that's going to be delivering that experience. That's a fundamental thing that I think design educators have got to be aware of and incorporate much more in the way that they're teaching how design happens.
This school has a great history. Next year we have our 65th anniversary. And the school is based in Eindhoven, which is a place in the south of Holland, because of Philips. The Philips factory was here, making the light bulbs, doing other fantastic project with light. And so they needed people who could work in the factory and at the company. So they started a kind of evening course. And that's the base, the start of this school. What we do, the first 2 years of the school, you need to do a lot of work. Simply by experiencing and making it. So we have a lot of making skills, but do it, train it, learn it. I mean, you have to have that practice somehow. What the teachers do, give feedback. All the time give feedback. And ask very difficult questions. We believe that you learn it by doing it.
I think one thing that design education gives you and gave me was an understanding that in a way the most powerful thing that I have to offer is the combination of my brain and my hands. That it's not all just about what I think, but it's what I do. And that in a design education you do lots and lots of projects. You're making things all the time. You're having an idea and then you're making it, and then you're testing it, trying it out and seeing what your colleagues think. And then you have another idea and you make it. And I think this constant iteration between, this constant loop between thinking and doing is really important for innovation.
In Finland, very important is always education. We have invested a lot to all levels of education, and I think you cannot have successful creative industries without a very good education system that educates people to different creative professions. For example, we just merged the new Aalto University, where universities of technology, business and art and design were put together as one university. This is one example of how through education system we support new ways of creativity and creative businesses.
Design Factory is an experimental co-creation platform for Aalto University. When studying and working in an interdisciplinary team, the students just become better aware about their own special, what they can, what they cannot, what is expected from them, what should they learn more.
The universities we have were born maybe 100 years or 200 years ago in a very different environment and world. So we have to shake them up. And I wanted to give design a stronger role in building the future.
I see and I really believe that designer can have much more bigger role in the society. I see how designers and even artists think it's a very holistic way. I am sure that the way how designers think is more handle the chaos and find the solution. So I think the ideal design education is the way how we improve and encourage this way of thinking more than the tools, the practical tools. So we cannot think that we can give all the tools now. It has a lot to do with creativity. How do you educate creativity? It's the person itself has to trust herself and be very brave, looking to the future.
Very lucky that the degree show at the RCA attracts a lot of visitors. It's something in the region of tens of thousands of people come to visit over the 2-week period. So it's a fantastic opportunity for the students to be exposed to a wide range of different people. Not only their friends and families, which of course is a great celebration, but also people from industry come. They're looking for new ideas and they're looking for new talent.
In the degree show this year it's a very, very diverse range, going from future speculations to interactive prototypes. One of my favourites is a project by Marguerite Rameau where she tried to recreate the sound of an extinct woolly mammoth. And she's made a large apparatus that growls every now and again, reproducing what she thinks would be the sound that the mammoth would make. And in the course of the project, over maybe 6 or 7 months, she's worked with all sorts of experts and specialists trying to figure out what actually would make the role? Is it the bone structure, the soft tissue, the lungs, the larynx? And she's built a fully working prototype now that creates sounds that she believes are as accurate as she can possibly get.
One example of a much more commercial approach to industrial design is the alarm clock made by Han-Chi Kim, which is coming out of a project that his platform ran when they analyzed radio alarm clocks. And in his new proposal, he kept the clock function, but instead of there being an audible alarm, there's two sockets in which you can plug in any other electronic product that you want. For example, you can set the alarm at 7 in the morning and be woken up by a ventilator starting to blow fresh air over your body, or you can plug in a coffee machine and wake up to the smell of freshly brewing coffee.
So my project is called A Different Viewpoint on Ordinary Life. It's research about tools for filming, basically, any camera mounts. So yeah, so these tools, the particularity is that the tools not only allow you to film, but also create reactions. It's both a cinematographic approach and a documentary approach, in the sense that it's also about observation and looking at people's behavior. But it would be great if I could eventually contact some companies that create, that produce these kind of tools, and see if there is a market for this eventually.
I think it's interesting because the show here is really a stepping stone into the commercial world, but in a broader sense, it also is a great place for people to show their work to a much wider audience. For example, you know, the people that come to see the vehicle design show are not just engineering media and things like that. They can be fine art media or media that's looking at new trends, or general newspapers and media. So the exposure is very broad, and I think it is provocative to the industry, and that's very exciting.
Our mission is to give young designers an international platform and a big international audience. In the past we have the exhibition here in Berlin. It's not a fair, but we have behind it, it's a fair structure. That means that we invite professional people, buyers and press people to get in contact with the young designers. The big difference to Milan or Cologne is that in Cologne or Milan you have big brands, and all the media and press is focusing on the stars, on the big brands, and nobody have time or power to get in contact with the young designers. And DMY is a platform especially for these people, for these young designers, so that the press and the professional people have time to get in contact with them. For us it's not important that, that the product is finished, so that it's a kind of mass production. For us it's really important that we can see how is the designer working. So we are interested in the process, and we are really interested in the dialogue about the design. For us it's important that we can show projects where not have the main focus to sell a new chair or something. We are more interested find the designer a new way for the production, which material is he using, and also the mix to art. So I think a lot of projects here is also on the border to the art.
My name is Marcel. I'm 24 years old and I'm from the University of Applied Arts in Hildesheim. Yeah, and I'm studying product design. We've designed a car named Rennholz. It's a car driven by a screwdriver. And we tried to use sustainable materials for the whole car. And so we choose plywood and aluminium, but a lot of the car is made of plywood. I think the innovative part is that it's made of wood and it gives you a real new feel of driving because it's flexible. Yeah, like a skateboard.
The girl, one leg. Record a tape.
At first we think about to put a real motor on this car, not only screwdriver. That's the next plan we're working on now, and do another car, yeah, a second one.
My name is Moritz Kasner. I have studied industrial design at the University of the Arts in Berlin. And there, together with Robert Fese, we developed this shelving system. It's called SNAP. And it is hand assembly at home. It is made out of a single sheet of plywood and is CNC fabricated. It takes about 1.5 minutes to make one piece, and they all snap together. All the functionality comes out of the material.
I'm Dirk van der Kooi, living in Eindhoven. Also have a studio there in the Netherlands. I graduated from the Design Academy with the project Endless. In short, it is like a big robot arm with an injection molding machine on. It creates furniture out of recycled fridges. Yeah, first idea was I looked into this rapid prototyping and I saw like this model of rapid prototyping from an old machine, and that was like low resolution. And I saw the potential in the line as an ornament for the chair or for a table, so to blow it up. And then what I needed is like a big XYZ frame, like for moving my big extruder. But it was like really expensive and I couldn't find it, so I went to a company that imported robot arms from factories, big factories, like old robot arms. And they say, okay, it's a cool idea. We'll lend you the robot arm for 1.5 years to start out the project. And that's how it started. There are too many designers. And the way for designers to get like all be functional and all be have a right to exist is to get like more workload on them, like to get more involved in production process, to get more like do it yourself and produce yourself and like taking over the industry a little bit and change that. And you could say this is not new, it is rapid prototyping, but it is new because nobody looked into that area before, like getting it big and getting the resolution low to get it fast and get like more materials available, like in plastic to use that, like recycled plastic.
My name is Yichong Lu. I'm a German designer. I designed 3 objects. One is the curtain that could subdivide the space into different parts very intuitively, so you just take the handles and move around and then the walls move a bit like that. And the second one was the light buoy, the lamp, that reacts on the situation that you have moving walls, so you need a flexible light source that comes from the top. So I made this lamp that hangs on the wall like a broom, and then you can quickly build it up to a standalone lamp to light up the space like a table plate, a dining table. And the third piece is panel. This is multifunctional objects, and depending on its position within the space, it changes function. So standing like this, it could be a coat hanger or a room divider, and hanging on the wall like this, it's a kind of table, a library table. It's called Living Tools, and the starting point was that I looked to the lifestyle we have nowadays, which is very flexible, and we always move from place to place, and we always change within our living room. We change the functions. We have to live within that, to rest and sometimes to work. Very quickly we have to change the place to a working space, or we are hosting friends for overnight and need to offer them a place to work or to sleep. I spent almost 3 years at the Design Academy Eindhoven, and before that I studied in Germany, and it was quite interesting for me to see, to came from a very rational background with very strict and clear design methods, come to the Design Academy and see that it works totally differently there. So they try to teach students that they find their very personal theme and to develop that to a certain quality.
We train them as good designers, but also train them in who are you. We see them as connectors. They can be the intermediary between different disciplines. They're leaders. They dare to take a position. We educate change makers. I think the future needs people who can make the difference and can change, existing processes or existing things.
Creativity, design, innovation, those are all words that are getting thrown around a lot. And I think we have to look at sets, how these words relate. Creativity is just ideas. Creativity is making ideas. Design is applying ideas, is taking those creative ideas but applying them in a particular kind of way. And innovation is applying creative ideas for business ends. So make money with an idea.
The question of what design is or what is good design is a very difficult question. I don't think there's one straight answer, but that's why we're working here to find this answer and maybe have some nice results along the way. We use projects to kind of try and define what the answer might be. Roughly speaking, I think good design should be very, very functional. I speak about extreme functionality. It should have a social meaning as well. It should be meaningful for the world we live in. With that I mean not only the Western world and glossy magazines, but we see design also as a development approach for the whole world. And the third part of good design to me is fantasy. Design should be like art. It should give us enormous pleasure and emotional energy in life as well.
Good design is something that goes beyond just the simple artifact. So good design for us is something that considers a multitude of other factors. So it has to take people into account. Good design is based on people. So people's needs, people's desires. Good design will not only seduce people in, but it will answer some hidden need, something that they weren't aware that they needed.
In my mind, design is a human-centered creative process. And good design is something that understands people, something that works, something that makes us happier, something that really is good for us. So there's no good design without people.